Hello Summoners, and welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is Nathan Ng, and today we'll be talking about the 10 best mid laners on patch 12.5. First step to winning in solo queue starts in champ select. Picking the OP champs in the current meta automatically gives you the edge over people that are for funning in the ranked games. So hopefully this video will help you make the right choices for the mid laners that you're gonna abuse. We'll be starting things off with Ahri. Turns out giving a bursty assassin mage hybrid a reset on their dash makes them pretty OP. So OP that I go as far to say that she's all around the best mid in the game, even after the nerfs that she got this patch. She just checks off all the boxes for everything that you want in a mid laner. She has the AoE damage and the range to give good poke and wave clear, CC and burst damage to make her a good kill threat, and her ultimate giving good mobility, and her skirmishing is strong, even early on. She's a super safe pick, winning or going even against almost all meta mid laners, and with how strong she is in the mid game, even just going neutral early on can be considered a win. The change that gave her ultimate resetting charges gives you so much more playmaking potential in teamfights now. Before, you were pretty limited on what you could do with your ultimate because you typically just used your first ult to get into the fight, one to do damage, and one to safely get out, since your cooldowns would be down at that point. But now you can safely stay in, using your extra charges and extended duration to kite around and further pursue more kills. Whether you're trying to learn to abuse the broken champions on this list or how to deal with them when you end up on the wrong side of the matchup, if you really want to speed up the process, you should check out ProGuides.com. We have courses from all your favorite streamers and pros, like Core JJ, Aframu, and Xmith, that really help you understand how to play your role. And if you want a more personalized experience, we have coaches available 24/7, ready to help you guys become the best. Our coaches are top tier players that have spent years climbing the solo queue ladder to get where they are now, and they're ready to share everything that they've learned with you. You can find the links to our website down in the description box below. Now let's get back to the video, shall we? Our second pick is Talon. While he is a bit more feast or famine of a pick than Ahri, honestly, if you know what you're doing, you'll definitely be feasting the majority of the time. He's a really oppressive pick, with a lot of base damage. His damage is so high that you easily have all-in potential the second that you hit level 2 if your opponent is disrespectful enough to be in range. Having so much damage means that the foes that know to respect you are gonna respect you a lot, like completely concede the lane. This means that you're free to roam and do as you please. As Talon's roams are especially effective, I mean, being able to flip over walls is definitely a handy tool when you're looking to bypass wards and pull off ganks. Or you can just evade the enemy jungler and kill him, hopefully picking up double buffs for yourself and tilting him in the process. But what makes Talon truly broken is that he's an assassin that still abuses a bruiser build. He still has plenty of damage for one-shotting squishy targets, but he himself is a lot less susceptible to dying in fights, so you don't have to get in and get out right away. You're able to stay in the fight and bring down multiple targets. Our next pick is Diana. Similar to Talon, she's technically an assassin but plays a lot more like a bruiser. In fact, instead of finding a flank to join most fights like most assassins, Diana is often the first champion running into the fight, using her ultimate as an engage. As long as you land her Q first, you have a double dash, making it easy for you to stick to your target even if they have flash up. She also has a very flexible playstyle, with both teamfighting and split pushing being equally viable strats later on into the game. She can easily cut down strong split-pushing duelists like Camille and even Fiora if you're strong enough, and her passive allows you to absolutely destroy turrets. If you think that you'll be side laning for the majority of the game, definitely consider grabbing a Nashor's Tooth. Akshan continues to be one of the best performing mid lane champions, and honestly, he's even better than his stats show. While being pretty simple on a mechanical level, there are things like properly bullying your opponent in lane and knowing how to actually abuse his early roaming and assassin-like identity later to make picks. This sets apart the truly good Akshans from the mediocre ones. If you really know what you're doing, you should be able to easily take over the game early and keep things constantly in your team's favor. More than most carries, you have to remember to always keep yourself alive when you're playing Akshan. A lot of people are content with diving in and trading themselves for a 1-for-1. And while that can be certainly worth it if you're killing a super high value target, most times you're better off being alive so you can revive allies. A lot of people seem to struggle with itemization with Akshan. As a general rule, you should take the Kraken Slayer build that we give as our default build, and go for a defensive shield bow only when you really need it. The one time it's really good is when you're landing against an AP mid laner and the enemy jungler is AP as well. When that happens, you'll go for Merc Treads, Wit's End, and Ginsu's, and you'll practically be unkillable, even in a 1v2. We knew Riot was going to go overboard when they were buffing Vanguard a few patches ago, and while they did try to take a bit of his power away on patch 12.4, that nerf barely put a dent in how strong of a carry he is. He comes online way too fast for a champ that's supposed to be scaling oriented, and Predator helps to easily make up for his lack of mobility. I think the main reason Vanguard is so insanely broken is his baby cage. I've always thought that it's one of the very best basic abilities in League of Legends. It gives so much zone control and catch potential, especially when it's time to fight around objectives and opponents are forced to funnel in through river entrances. If you want a burst mage that gets you into the fray instead of dancing around it, maybe Vex is the better pick for you. She is lane dominant and especially good against melee champions. Since a lot of people struggle to deal with assassins and often end up feeding into oblivion against them, maybe she's something that you should add to your champ pool. And it's not like you have to deal with some tough skill matchups when you're dealing with them. It's as simple as sitting on your fear to prevent them from taking good trades against you. If they go in, use your shield to instantly fair them, giving you time to get a bit of space and then trade back with the rest of your combo. Her itemization can be pretty flexible as well, with both Crown and Everfrost being viable substitutes for Ludens. Xanios is also a good item if you really need it when you're engaging on a team with a lot of damage, but generally, it's best to build as much damage as possible when you can. While Vex is definitely a very strong safe pick for climbing, I also think she's what I consider a very balanced champion. She just can't nuke you from across the screen, nor can she escape from a fight once she jumps in. She actually gets punished for misplays. And that brings us to today's question of the day. What are some of the other champions that are really strong but also pretty well balanced? Let us know your answers in the comments down below. Now without further ado, let's get back to the video. Another super lane dominant champ that you may want to consider picking up is Pantheon. In fact, he's so lane dominant that despite just saying that Vex rolls melee champions, he even beats her. He just does too much damage too easily. He can completely overpower any foe that gets in range of his W, doing a ton of damage in such a short span of time, using his E to totally mitigate any damage and attempt to trade back. It's also pretty easy to extend his lead to the rest of the map if you use your ultimate to go for roams. It's a good way to punish overextended opponents, but it does have a really long cooldown, so be sure that you're making each cast count. If you like cheesy, somewhat off-meta picks, maybe Pike is for you. I mean, it's not like Pike mid is anything exactly new, but he's definitely a bit more of a pocket pick that only a few people abuse. And that's kind of a shame, because his mid lane win rate is pretty darn high, sitting just above 54% in Plat Plus. Pike has absolutely no wave clear, so winning lane is entirely reliant on forcing trades on your opponent. Thankfully, that isn't all that hard. Pike does a lot of damage, so even landing a hook into stun combo is almost always a guaranteed way to kill your foe, even if they're starting out with full HP. Pike is a super snowball reliant champion, so the second that you have your ultimate, you should be forcing plays with your jungler or roaming bot lane and try to cash in as much as possible. Akali is a champion that makes the list despite having a negative win rate, but Akali has pretty much always had a negative win rate. That's because she has a really high skill floor, with an insanely high skill ceiling to match. If you're bad or even just average on the champion, you're gonna have little to no impact on the game. If you're really good at her, the things that you can do in teamfights are absolutely disgusting. You can maneuver in and out of danger, one-shotting a foe or two before making your escape. When you actually know how to lane with her, she's also incredibly safe. If you just turn off your brain and mindlessly shove and spam every button to trade, you're going to be pretty easy pickings. But if you actually show discipline and always hold onto your shroud as a defensive ability, you'll find that you'll stop inting the jungler every time they come mid. Finishing off our list, we have Rumble. Out of all the champions that are being slept on in the mid lane, Rumble is probably the most surprising. He was already a good pick before they gave him that last round of buff, so I'm not sure why people aren't abusing the hell out of this pick. He's a natural counter to other melee champions, and he requires literally no mechanics to do so anybody can pick him up and play him. It's really as simple as running at your opponents with W and Q, and maybe landing an E or two. I guess the part of his kit that people really mess up pretty often is casting his ultimate, but personally, I've never had any issues, and I don't even have to turn off smart casting for it. But if you haven't played him much, maybe consider going to the practice tool and getting used to it. And that wraps things up for our 10 best mid laners on patch 12.5. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you sub so you never miss out on our meta guides, and you're always in the loop on what the best picks are. Remember to let us know what champ you think is pretty strong, but also well balanced down in the comments below. And one last thing, don't forget to check out our Discord in the description box below, where you can go ahead and enter our giveaway, or just hang out and be part of our community. I can't wait to see you guys back in the next video, but until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.